What's up, everybody? Travis Ventrella here, and in this video I have the one and only JC Acosta with me. And really what we want to talk about in this video is the real reason most business owners and really most people in general never hit their goals. Okay, now you guys have heard it before, and I always tell you I want this video to be super authentic. I'm not going to try to be somebody I'm not. So I really I want to flow. I want to have freedom. And at the end of the day, my goal with this video for you is to help you change some of the ways maybe you think and to change the perspectives you have around business so you could actually hit your goals, right? This isn't a video to bash people for not hitting their goals, but to really talk about the things a lot of business owners don't typically talk about, right? So we're not here to talk about marketing or sales or building a team in this video. No, we are here to talk about one of the reasons why people don't hit their goals. And as you know, JC, he built his car detailing business to $40K a month. Since 2020, I've launched multiple businesses. I've built a 7-figure a year business, and there's a lot of lessons that I've learned. And by far, I would say what I want to walk you guys through today is one of the biggest lessons I've ever learned. And it's not what most people think, right? Most people think, oh, it's just marketing or it's just sales, which, yeah, there's truth to that, but it goes even deeper, right? I wrote this down. The real reason most people never hit their goals isn't because of bad luck or lack of opportunity. It's because they never develop the skills or the mindset required to get there, right? And so I want to give you a few different reasons. Number one is the reason people don't hit their goals is because they don't have the necessary skills to actually hit them. And many times what people say is, oh, I just don't have the money, finances are hard. And the question you have to ask yourself, and the truth sometimes hurts, but the question you have to ask yourself is not having the money the problem, or is it the symptom of the problem? And what I mean by that is, like, if you knew exactly what to do to grow your business right now, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to systems, if you knew exactly what to do, how much further ahead would you be? Well, the reason a lot of people don't get those skills is because they think everything needs to be going good before they get them, right? Like, an example, I could give, and JC, you could speak into this in a moment, is like, okay, let's just say hypothetically you want it to be successful in basketball, right? You want it to land a career in the NBA, right? And, the route many people would go just because is trying to figure it out on their own. So what does that look like? Oh, I'm going to watch YouTube videos. I'm going to dribble. I'm going to shoot hoops every day. Well, what if you're not shooting them the way you should be shooting them, right? Like, how long is it going to take to realize that? And for many people, it's their whole life before they crack the code. And then they live in regret of, what if I were to get the skills earlier, right? So there's that route. But then the next route is training under someone like Michael Jordan directly, where he actually, before you just start shooting hoops and doing this or doing that, he actually helps you create a plan to stick to, and he shows you exactly what you need to focus on every day to actually get into the NBA. Which route do you think is actually going to get there? Because the reality is, most people who go to college, it's like, do you get the skill of the field you want to study after you start making money, or before you start making money, right? Like, if I want to be a lawyer, can I just start being a lawyer right off the rip and make money with it? Or do I first need to learn and actually develop that skill set? And so, like, as an example in my own life, and then JC, I want you to speak into this, I got started in business in September of 2020. And at the time, there was a lot of my friends over the years who wanted to go and start businesses and wanted to be successful. And out of those people, I noticed over the years, a lot of them, they once had a goal to be in business, but then they didn't pursue it. Then there was a good chunk of them that did pursue it, but they didn't get the results they were looking for. And when I felt like the Lord was leading me down the path of business in September of 2020, I was like, okay, there's two routes I could go here. Either A, I could do what everyone else does, watch YouTube videos, right? Read books, try to figure it out on my own and maybe, strike gold. Or B, I could just find someone who's already been there. They've already made the mistakes. They already know what works, what doesn't. And I could invest in them to learn the skills to get there a lot quicker. And so what people don't realize is people say, oh, Travis, well, you already had all this money. And actually, in fact, I didn't. In fact, I had $7,000 in credit card debt, which, by the way, destroyed my credit score because I wasn't even paying the minimum payments at the time. And to get the first coach I got, I had to take out a loan from my family. Like, I had to go to a family member and take out a loan. And literally in that moment, I was willing to do what most people aren't willing to do. And it's, a lot of people think you get the money and then you get the skill. But no, you actually get the skill and then the money follows the skill, right? So it's like every day that goes by where you don't have the skill set to build your business, you're leaving money on the table, right? I wrote this down. You don't wait until you have money to invest. You invest so you can actually create the money. And think about it like this. A lot of people, they take out loans to go to college, and most people go to college. They don't even land a job in the field they went to school for. But JC, speak into that, like point number one of like lack of skill. Like for the person watching this right now, they have a goal, they have a desire. I'm going to make money. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to, manage my finances better. Like speak to that.
It's funny because if you look at people who are starting specifically car detailing business, like myself, like I got into a car detailing business because I didn't want to go to college, right? That was like my whole thing. It's like I don't need to go to college. I don't need college. I don't need a secondary education. I don't need this. I don't need that. Well, it's like, okay, yeah, and a lot of things that they teach you in college or business school, most of the stuff is just you're not going to use, but if you start to look at what you need for a detailing business, a pressure washing business, whatever business, there's still some basic fundamentals. Someone said this a while back. I don't ask me who quoted it, but it's the people who start their first time business. They focus so much on the product, right? They want to have the best product. They want to have the best service, et cetera, et cetera. People who start a second time
It's like you
business.
could have the best. It's funny you say that though, because it's like you could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it
Yeah, the
and you don't
second
know how to
time business.
sell it,
Yeah. The second time business owner only focuses about being in front of people. And it's because they've learned that if they don't have that skill, their business is as good as nothing. I have this water bottle here. I love this water bottle because it's got a filter and it's really cool. But I wouldn't have known about that if there wasn't an Instagram ad that showed it, right? Or a Google ad that allowed me to find it, right? So all these businesses, they have the skills that actually do it, and anyone who wants
right?
to
Because
get
you
into,
don't know what you don't know.
yeah, and someone that Travis and I know said this. What if I told you that it's just a symptom that you don't have the money, that you don't have the right skills? People saying, "Oh, I don't have the money, I don't have this, I don't have that." In order to get to X, Y, and Z, yeah, of course you don't have the money, but you also don't have the skills to make the money. So in order to be able to make the money, you have to acquire the skills. So it's really what it comes
But
down
it's
to.
like, what is, dude? I'm just curious your perspective here. What is like the root? like the internal thing going on, because like we see it all the time where there's these people that say, hey, I want to get to 10K a month, I want to get to 20K a month, I want to lose weight, I want to get fit, right? There's all these people that, they have somewhat of a desire, right? Everyone wants to make more money, everyone wants to increase, right? With knowing skill is something you need to make money, why do you feel like most people don't get the skill?
They're not willing to do what's required. Like there's a difference between people who are hard workers and people who are working hard towards something, right? I could say I'm a hard worker, I'm a hard worker, I'm a hard worker, and that's why my business is going to be successful. But I could be a hard worker and designing my backdrop here, you know? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get me any more clients. Like I
Dude,
work.
you're hitting something there, because there are people that say, well, dude, I work really hard. Well, how come a lot of people say they work really hard, their financial situation never changes? They never scale the business, they never dial in the marketing. And what I've realized is that's like saying, okay, I'm gonna work really hard at taking a square steel peg and trying to shove it into a round hole made of steel, right? No matter how hard you try, like like you could try hard all you want, but even when the Bible says the hand of the diligent bears rule, it's not talking about the person that works hard. It's talking about, like, I broke this down. It's talking about smart hard work, right?
That
So if you have the skill on how to bend metal, sure, you could get it to fit. But hard work within itself is not going to get you there. Or else, how many people work hard that are still stuck? They've been spinning their wheels for years,
Yeah, and if
decades.
you saying the square peg into the round hole, there's only besides God, there's only one person who could put a square peg into a round hole. You know who that is? A blacksmith. Because they have the tools in order to shape it into the right thing. But guess what? They've acquired the skill. Now they know how to. Now
Exactly.
they.
Okay.
So
So
it,
the bottom line with number one is you just don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know how to market, if you don't know how to dial in your sales process, right? That's the very reason you need to get the skill. So action step. If you're someone watching this right now, maybe you're a car detailer, maybe you're a plumber, an electrician, whatever business you do. There's so many of them. Ask yourself, where can you go to acquire the skills necessary so you actually know how to do the job? Because every day that goes by, you do not know how to be good at marketing. You are leaving money on the table, right? People think that people are successful, it's just by luck, right? Luck is for leprechauns and you're not green, my friend. It's not luck. It's they're doing something different than you are. So that's number one. Number two, I want to speak into this fear of failure. Again, we're talking about reasons why people don't hit their goal. Number two is a big one, fear of failure. What if I invest in trying to acquire these skills and I fail? Right? And that's where people go wrong, because you're asking yourself the wrong question. Instead of asking yourself, what if I fail? What if you start asking yourself the question, what if I succeed? Right? It's the difference between saying I can and I can't. There was a famous quote where I forget who says it, but they said, whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. So if you believe you can, you will. But if you believe you can't, you won't. Right? And it's like, how are you looking at the glass? Half empty or half full? Either way, you're explaining what's going on in the cup, but one is pessimistic and the other is optimistic, right? And so I wrote this down. Most people spend their whole life avoiding risk because of a fear of failure, and they end up living in regret. I want to read a few of these, and then JC, you could. I know you had a story that you could probably hit around this.
Mhm.
Fear of failure keeps more people broke than lack of opportunity ever will. They spend decades saying, "What if it doesn't work?" And then when they're 65 years old, they're asking, "What if it did work?" Right? So it's like, I rather spend my life taking risk and getting results rather than not taking risk, getting to the age of 65 and living my last days on the earth in regret of what would have happened had I took that shot. What would have happened if I got those skills? What would have happened if I actually took action and I went all in on my goals, right? And so the other thing I want to say is it's kind of like going to the gym at the end of the day because people get in their mind, okay, Travis, JC, what if I invest in getting the skills, whatever that is, right? What if I invest tens of thousands of dollars getting the right skills to do this the right way? But what if it doesn't work out? Well, Albert Einstein said this: the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. One of the smartest people to ever walk Earth, essentially. And that also means this: if you change the way you're doing things in a by implementing a proven process, the chances of you being successful are way higher. Because at the end of the day, you can't guarantee success legally in a way, but one thing you can guarantee is two things. Number one, you're gonna have to pay taxes, and number two, one day you're gonna die on the earth. Right? But I can't guarantee that you're gonna wake up tomorrow. And so I correlate it to this example. When you go to a gym, there's two types of people, right? On one side is someone, you know, who's hitting their fitness goals, they're fit, they're in shape, they're jacked. And on the other side are people who are not hitting their goals, they're still overweight, they're obese, and they just can't seem to get rid of the weight. At the end of the day, the difference between the two is the person who gets fit is they stick to a proven process no matter how they feel, whereas the person who doesn't, they essentially don't stick to any process, right? There's so many gyms, but there's so many people who never hit their goal because they're not willing to stay consistent and put in the work. But JC, maybe speak into that. Maybe you have a story around the fear of failure.
It's when you were talking about this, something else popped up as well. Dr. Miles Monroe said, and the quote is, do you know what the wealthiest place in the world is? And the wealthiest place in the world isn't, Dubai, it isn't the United States, it isn't, you know,
Which that's
Canada,
what most people would think.
yeah. The wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. All the ideas, everything that people had that they didn't act upon, and they said, you know what, maybe one day, and they died with it. That's where how many ideas could be just lying in a graveyard right now, right? And part
Too
part of
many.
this, yeah, and part of this is, when it came to me starting my business, I'm not originally from Florida. I mean, I live in Florida now, but I moved from Pennsylvania. Like, who can say that they just up and moved to start a business? Like most people, they're like, "Oh, I'll start where I'm at," and I had the business in Pennsylvania, but they're like, "Oh, I'll start where I'm at. Once it's successful here, then I'll go down there. I'll open up another location." No, no, I just up and left.
Mm.
I got my apartment, my top, and I just moved. I mean, I could have sat there and said, "Hey, I'm do this eventually. Maybe one day I'll move." But one day, I just said, "All right, I'm out. I'm gonna go do this right now. Here we go." And when I left, I got down here, and right then and there, the first month we did like 4K. Which the funny part is that's more than than some people did, right? And I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but partway through the business, we hit a 10K month, a 15K month. And eventually, I got involved with some guys that showed me how to run a business, and essentially coached me on the whole thing. And not soon after, we were hitting our, 30, 40K a month. So all that to say, I mean,
But notice something key you said there. You were hitting low months, but the moment you made a pivot to get
mhm.
coaching from somebody, which I know you gave them like, a good chunk of money from that, with you making that like accelerated you a lot quicker.
Yeah, I mean, eventually, the key word here is eventually I would have figured it out, right? And how long is eventually? Is it 6 months? Is it 6 years? Is it 60 years? Who knows? Maybe
And
I
for
would have,
most people it is.
yeah. I mean, look at some of these guys, they're not becoming millionaires till they're 40, 50, 70. And it's because they failed 90 times over. And I'm not saying failure is a bad thing, but if you go and ask all these guys, they'll say, yeah, if I had a way to accelerate myself, I would do it all over again. They would do it time and time again, but if you have a way to accelerate yourself, why not learn? There's so much knowledge
Yeah, it's
now.
like, dude, it's so powerful you bring that up because it's like, okay, even to prove this concept to you, for those of you like for you watching this right now, maybe you're 16, 18, maybe you're 80. I don't know how old you are. Everyone's a different age who's watching this. But think back to something in your life, like as simple as riding a bicycle, right? If you were to learn how to do it on your own, the chances of you being able to pick it up quick are very slim. But most of us, our mom or our brother or our sister, they said, "Hey son, this is how you ride a bike." And we started with the training wheels. And within a period of time, you get very good at it. Where the point I'm trying to make there is like think back to something you've achieved in your life, not even monetarily or in terms of finances, but just in general. Maybe there's a certain skill or a certain ability you developed, and now when you look back you're like, man, if I went back to myself a year ago, I could actually got the result I was looking for within 3 months as opposed to a year or two or three or 10, right? Because that example JC gave of those people who are now millionaires, if they could go back to their younger self with those skills they've acquired from failing over and over again, they could have been way more successful a lot quicker. And so it's like you either pay with time or you pay with money. When you pay with time, you're trying to figure things out on your own. But when you pay with money, you're investing into a proven process that works over and over again. So that is really good. The third one is uncertainty, and I wrote this down. Uncertainty keeps people stuck at the starting line. And the reality is, certainty comes from proven systems, not guessing. It comes from proven systems, not guessing, right? When you look at successful people, they're not successful by accident. They're not just successful because they stumbled upon it, right? They're successful because one thing you will realize about some of the most successful people in business on the earth, they have coaches and they have proven systems that they're implementing, and they have the accountability to execute it every single day, right? And so the reality is, uncertainty keeps people from getting to their goal because an uncertain person is like a double-minded person, right? They're like, is this gonna work? I don't even have the confidence. Like, there's a lot of people, JC, who are building businesses and they don't even have certainty on whether or not the plan they put together is actually going to get them to the goal they have. And most people don't. They say 95% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And the reason that statistic is so high is because you have to have certainty around a plan that's actually going to get you to your goal, right? Like, even I want to read this to you. Proverbs 15:22 says this: plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. So the key here is, how do you get certainty? If uncertainty is something that holds you back from your goal, how do you get it? Well, the way you get certainty is by following a proven system and process that works time and time again. JC, you want to speak into that?
Hmm. Looking as a former broke detailer, a little of our guide. Um, it's funny because you look at start this business, and probably calling out about half the detailers that are watching right now, if not three-quarters of them. But how many of you started the business didn't want to have a boss, right? Someone to tell you what to do, right? And it's so easy to get into you start a business, you get your LLC, and now you're calling yourself the CEO of the company. Bro, you're not the CEO of anything yet. You're the CEO of yourself. Cool, right? But they get on and they're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start a business. I'm gonna rock and roll with this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." And there is no plan. Most of the time, you're just figuring it out as you go along. And then anytime someone wants to tell you what to do, you're like, "No, no, no. I know what I'm doing. I'm the pro." Bro, you've been stuck at 5K for 6 years. One of our pastors here in Tampa, um, had said this. He goes, if you've had 50 relationships, whatever, and they all end the same way, all 50 of them, do you think that all 50 of them have the same, and they all end the exact same way? Do you think those 50 people have the problem, or you have the problem? Who's the problem here, right? So if you're still, still stuck at five, six, $7,000, less than that every month, and people are trying to tell you what to do, and you just keep running around, boom, 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 boom. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. The real solution here isn't the to go and find the next biggest and greatest thing. It's to actually stick with something rather than writing it off, saying, "Oh, that's not working." So that's just
It's
my
kind of
stand.
like, dude, you know how like sometimes when things aren't going the way someone wants it to go,
Hmm.
they end up like I don't know why, but most people they end up calling someone to get advice that doesn't even have a business, right? Like, oh, I think this is what I should do. Let me go ask my wife. Well, does your wife even know how to own a business, right? Like, I'm married, and I remember I invested in a $38,000 program. I've invested over 100 grand into coaches over the years to get to where I'm at. And on that call, I didn't go to my wife about dropping $38,000 on it because it's kind of like that saying from Shakespeare where it's like heavy is the head that wears the crown, and it's not talking about the weight of the crown itself, but the weight of responsibilities you have when you put the crown on. And it's like, why would I go to my wife about making a wise investment decision that's going to grow my business when she doesn't even know how to run a business because she does something different, right? Like, why would I have to put that pressure and that responsibility on her, right? And so at the end of the day, it's like you can't get advice from people who don't know what to do, right? Like, if I want to be successful in real estate, why am I going to go to someone who's begging for money on the side of the road and ask, like, dude, what are your thoughts on real estate? Like, how can I get started? Like, what sense and what fairness would it be asking someone like that a question when obviously they don't know, right? So it's figuring out in whatever field you are who is where you want to get to and how can you learn their process from them so you could actually have that certainty that if you just put in the work you're gonna get results. Like, the one thing about me, if I were to lose everything today and was starting from zero, I would do whatever I could to find somebody who is at least steps ahead of where I'm at. Like, let's say I wanted to get in the field. Like, I'm gonna find someone who's making at least 10,000 a month because I'm broke in that story, right? And I am going to do whatever they tell me to do because they have proven that they know something that's making 10K a month, and success leaves clues. If they are making 10K a month, there is a reason they're making it. All you need to do is be willing to put in the work. Okay? Number 4 is analysis paralysis. Okay? I wrote this down. Overthinking kills momentum. And sometimes people are thinking, you could think you need to work out all day long and you could go from this gym to that gym. It doesn't even matter. Like, stop thinking about it and just go and work out. Just go, get a plan, and start taking action, right? The reason a lot of people are stuck is because they're in learning mode. They're watching one video to the next, or watching reels on Instagram and TikTok and hearing about this marketing strategy and that marketing strategy. Oh, let me change my logo. None of that stuff even matters. Just find one proven process and go all in. Burn the boats and go all in. You don't need to do 100 different strategies. You just need to do one really good one until you get to 10K a month. And so maybe you're watching this video right now and you're like, Travis, JC, like, I feel like I'm dealing with this stuff. The biggest piece of advice I could give anybody watching this call who is not happy with their current financial situation, not happy with your fitness situation, not happy with whatever area it is, find somebody, like the greatest hack, the secret, if you will, is find the person who's crushing it in the area you want to be successful and go invest into learning the skills from them on how you could get there too. That is the best advice I could ever give, because that is what makes all the difference in the world.
You know, while you were talking about this, Travis, and about like the people who overthink, back in 2019, it was like 2019, 2021, there was a show. It was called Undercover Billionaire. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but basically the whole premise of the show is they took, maybe it was a couple billionaires or one billionaire, something like that, right? And they said, here's, I don't know, $300. You have 90 days to build $1 million business from nothing. And the whole premise of the show is that they are able to do it. Almost each and every time they do it, right? But if you go and you talk to some of these people, everyone's going to say, well, oh, it's easy. He's a billionaire. He's got connections. They're not allowed to touch their connections. They're not allowed to use any business. They're not allowed to use any of their money. They're not even allowed to start a business in their same wheelhouse. Like, it's the whole goal is for them to completely
That's
fail,
insane.
and they can still do it. The point I'm making with this is not go and spend, however long it takes to watch those episodes. It's not the point here. The point I'm making is why can they do it and the average person can't? Right? So people get on, they say, "Oh, well, they have more head knowledge. They've been doing it before." Yeah, exactly. They do. You know why? Because they did something. They just take action. A lot of the
And
times,
once you have those skills, they can't be taken away.
yeah.
Like, once
And
you have those skills, like, I've literally proven it over and over again, even starting my detailing business 12 months ago or over a year ago, whatever it was, is once you have the skills, you have them, right? Once you're really good at marketing, you could apply it to anything. Like, as an example, because of the marketing skills I've acquired, not only have I been able to build my businesses and help over 1,000 others over the years, but at the same time, it's like I'm able to use the skills of marketing for my church. I mean, we did an event where over 3,600 people came out because I learned how to run ads, and obviously there's a supernatural component there with Jesus breathing on the ad. But at the same time, it's like, what if I didn't even know that skill to begin with, right? Then I wouldn't have been able to successfully launch any ad. And so once you get the skills, guys, it changes everything. I'll end with this, right? If you ever played any sport in your life and you got good at some point with it, the moment you know how to play the sport and you got really good at it, you could go to an entirely different team and crush it, right? Because you now have that skill set and nobody could take it away. And the most important skills to have in business is marketing, sales, systems, structure, your product, and there's some other things you could put in there, but really the most important ones are marketing and sales. Without that, you do not have a business. And if you aren't dialed with those skills, you don't scale your business, right? Because marketing is all about getting attention. Sales is all about converting that attention into paying customers at the end of the day. So all you need to do is just find the person who's crushing in your field, go all in. That's the place you're going to see success. So hope that this video blessed you and you took something away from it. We are praying that the best is yet to come. Take action, go after it. People overestimate what they could do in a year and underestimate what could be done in 10 years. But I will tell you this, if you don't quit, you win. But if you quit, you fail. So keep winning, keep running, and get the skills necessary that are going to take you to the next level.